86% of people on the planet are more afraid of giving a presentation than anything else. Take 2 hours. Don't put it off. So in 2 hours, you can create a story that is very compelling. And part of the reason I called it the pop-up pitch.
We now have ChatGPT, and do you think we still need the skills for creating this presentation?
Absolutely. I do not think that the robots are going to take over. But in fact, the robot doesn't really know anything.
はい、ピボットの竹下です。話題の著者の本を深掘りするピボットブックダイジェスト始まります。今日はですね、この英語の本ですね、ザ・ポップアップピッチという本を書いた、ダン・ロームさんに話を聞きたいと思います。ダンさんは、サンフランシスコに住んでるんですけども、アメリカのプレゼンのもうカリスマです。Ibm とか、Google とかですね、Ibm とかウォルマートとか、名だたる企業のリーダーたちが、このダンさんにプレゼンを学んでいる、ダンさんが師匠というすごい人です。今日はダンさん、ちょうど来日中ですので、あと日本語版が出るということなので、このザ・ポップアップピッチ、どうやったらプレゼンは上手くなるかっていう話を聞いていきたいと思います。
So Dan-san, welcome to our show, Pivot.
Ryan-san, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you have sold a lot of international bestsellers. How do you feel so far about publishing your book in Japanese?
Oh, I'm very, very excited. And there are so many reasons. I'm here in Tokyo for a month because I'm actually doing an artist residency with my fiance. We are both, in addition to being authors, we're also artists. And I have always admired a lot of Japanese art. Hokusai has been one of my favorites forever. Of course, Hayao Miyazaki is one of my favorite directors ever. So the idea of being able to come and spend time in Japan has been incredible. And so the idea that my books have been able to reach a Japanese audience just makes me very, very happy.
So what is a pop-up pitch?
Ryan, here's what a pop-up pitch is. Okay. I believe that in our world today, where people are so distracted and our attention is so short, that in order for us to get the attention of someone else to share our idea, we have to be able to share our idea in the fastest and most interesting way possible. So to support that, I created what I call the pop-up pitch, which is really a toolkit that is designed to help mostly business people, but also help us in our life and even with our family, be able to create a simple presentation of our idea, no matter how complicated the idea is, to create that presentation in less than 2 hours.
2 hours.
So that we can present it in about 5 minutes. That's what the pop-up pitch is.
And you only need a pencil, a pen, or paper.
Absolutely. Very, very simple. And you need to have a bit of an idea of what it is that you want to share with someone. And as long as you have even the beginning of your idea, if you follow along of the steps in the pop-up pitch, I will help you craft that idea into one of the best stories that you've ever told.
Wow. So you live in San Francisco, and here in Japan, people are kind of afraid of presentations. They're very nervous, and they are kind of not good at it. Do you have any advice for a Japanese audience, how you can make a good presentation?
Well, thank you, Ryan. That's an excellent question. I don't want to presume anything on behalf of the Japanese people, but I would say this. For the American people, we are also terrified of making a presentation. In fact, Ryan, it's interesting. I was reading a statistic just the other day. This is totally crazy. 86% of people on the planet are more afraid of giving a presentation than anything else. 86% of people would rather die than have to go up and give a presentation. It's most of us. And isn't that crazy? I made a little drawing.
Yeah, sure.
May I?
Yes. Okay.
So to answer your question, Ryan, I think one of the issues is if we just imagine people, you know, this is us in here. We're just another one of the people. And most of the time in our life, we're comfortable being there. But when you make a presentation or give a speech, guess what? You have to move out here. And then everybody is looking at you.
Right.
And imagine the terror when you think, what if I make a mistake? All eyes on me.
Yes.
However, the other thing that we know is that in order to be a good leader and in order to have your idea clear and shared by other people, you have to do that.
Right.
Because if your ideas are all in here, this is a good analogy would be like, this is social media. And it's all just chaos. Who are the people who kind of become an influencer or lead to the top? Is the person who says, I have something of value and I'm willing to step outside and show it to you. And that is terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, but you need to step up and get, yes.
You have to do it. And that is not something I think that is like a natural human trait. Most of us would rather, most of the time, kind of stay in our tribe, stay in our group. And so this act of moving outside to present back, it's scary, there's no doubt.
So let's go into Pamela's story.
Pamela's story.
Okay. So in your book, you mentioned a great example about Pamela. So she has led the accounting practice at a global consulting firm for 20 years, and she has a bunch of network of clients and colleagues around the world. She's happy with her life, but she wants to, pivot herself and become a CEO of a fast-growing startup fashion company called Bing Bang.
Yeah.
And she's ready to pitch to Beth and Paige, who are both founders. And you're giving us this example to show us what pop-up pitch is. So could you explain to us the 2 steps we should take using...
I'll do it. Absolutely. So a little bit of context.
Okay.
So as you already mentioned, Pamela, I changed the names, but the story is real.
Okay.
So character that I've worked with for a long time, a very, very professional, long-term career in financial services consulting, and she's ready for the change. Ryan, exactly as you said. And what makes this story particularly interesting is that Pamela is a bit of a fashion person. Like, she's very aware of the clothes that she wears, and she becomes aware of this new startup fashion company and looks at that company and says, I think they're going to be very successful. Wouldn't it be interesting if I, with my background in being a COO, Chief Operations Officer, came into that little company and helped them grow? That would refresh my view of life and maybe give them some long-term experience that they haven't had to this point. So now into the pop-up pitch. So I work with Pamela and I say, the first thing, Pamela, that you need to do, or that I would advise you to do, is create a visual decoder. And she says, oh, what? So I say, take a sheet of paper. And Ryan, would you join me with this?
Okay,
we'll do it together.
Yes.
Okay, so first we're in Tokyo. So let's do a little bit of origami. It's very simple. So just fold your paper over like this. And by the way, for anybody who's watching this podcast on Pivot, this is actually the tool. This is tool number 1 from the pop-up pitch is to create what we call a visual decoder. Now fold it over. Why have we done this? Because, Ryan, what we've done is we've created basically a little booklet.
Okay.
It has a cover, and then it has 4 equal panels on the inside, and then a back cover. And then what we will do is we'll take a pen, and on the front page, right now, I just want you to write the word title.
So this will be the cover.
This will be the cover of what is going to be my 10-page pitch presentation. And we're using right now tool number 1, the visual decoder, which is just simple sketches to get our ideas down on paper. So the first thing we're going to do is label it, and we won't draw everything because people will be able to see what Pamela did. So open it up, and in this top panel on the left-hand side, I want you to write the word who, and what.
Okay.
And now we're going to move over to this upper right-hand panel, and we're going to write in there, quite small, the word where. Then we'll move down to the lower left, and we'll write 2 words, how much.
How much.
How much. And the last panel we will call when.
When. Okay.
And then we'll close it, and on the back cover we're going to call it lesson learned. Okay. So all we've done to this point, and it took us about a minute to do it, is we've created the template to draw the visual decoder. And now what you do is you take about 15 minutes, and with yourself on this piece of paper, you start thinking, okay, my title is I want a new job. So I'm Pamela. I want to become COO at a fashion company. Okay. So that's what my story is going to be about. Then I open it up, and we'll show the example. I won't draw it right now. But we start without trying to get to the end. We just start drawing the story. Who's involved? Well, there's me. There's the 2 founders of the company. There is their company. It's almost like we're playing a game. And the first thing we need to do is simply put the pieces on the table. Say if we're going to play chess, for example, or if we're going to play Go, the first thing we have to do is put the first pieces on the table. And we say this piece represents this, and this piece represents this. We haven't started playing yet. We've just set the table here. Who and what is involved in my story?
I see.
This is a visual exercise. What we want to do is we set a timer, and we literally, for each panel, are going to set a timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes.
That's pretty short.
It's very short, and there's a lot of scientific research that indicates we're trying to get our idea down very fast. So I'm going to obligate you to do it in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, draw as many people. I'm Pamela, so there's me. I'm Pamela. And then there's Beth. And I just start going. Who else is in there? Oh, and they have their company. And their company makes shoes. So I'm going to draw a shoe. And I'm just trying not to edit myself because I know the clock is ticking, clock is ticking. Who else have I got? Oh, well, there's their customers. Who are their customers? The customers who wear shoes. Okay, so I'll draw a little customer and I'll say there's their customers. And then, wait a minute, they make a product. So there's got to be a manufacturer somewhere. And then there's got to be staff. Oh my gosh, they must have a bunch of staff that are making these shoes. And then, oh my gosh, they need to have stores because somehow they're selling those shoes. And who's in the store? And tick, the clock is up.
So it's like a brainstorm.
Brainstorm, which you can do by yourself. And the reason why I'm asking people to draw it is because it's fast. And you mentioned something a moment ago, Ryan, that is very important. I'm not trying to ask people to draw because it's art. I'm asking people to draw because it's fast and it's very intuitive. I'm going to step up to the whiteboard and show you why I drew this circle. I want you to imagine that this circle represents the human brain. We have about 100 billion neurons in our brain. My brain, your brain, about 100 billion neurons. Imagine that this circle represents all of the neurons that we have in our brain. You want to know how many are focused on processing vision? Half. Half of the human brain is processing vision. Looking at me, at the fuchsia walls, at the whiteboard, at the lights. More of your brain is processing vision than any other thing that we do. So the reason I'm asking people to draw is not to become Hayao Miyazaki or Leonardo da Vinci, but it's to key off of this entire part of our mind that when we're writing is not activated. Experience and research indicates, and I've done this thousands of times, probably 2/3 of all the people in a room have never used their visual mind in any thoughtful way. And when you give them a tool to do it, you know what happens? Every time. People start saying, you want me to do what? And I say, try it. Draw another circle. Who else is there? Oh, there's Dave. Oh my God, there's Ryan. I forgot about Ryan. And then before you know it, within 30 seconds, the person is going like this. And it's coming out. And you're recording it.
So let's go on to the next step.
Okay. So then, in our next quadrant, we move this way. After we've drawn who and what, now we say, where are they? So in this quadrant of where, I want us to draw a map that shows the relationship of these people. Then we move on to the third one, and that was how much. Here's something we know to be true. Every time we're in a business meeting, panel number 3, where we now get quantitative.
I see. So we need to switch our mindset.
We switch our gears, and again, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes for each panel. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Part of the reason that I'm asking us to shift from one panel to the next, you nailed it. It's a complete mind jump. The first one was very much lists of people. The second one was very spatial. What is their relationship? The third one is where we count things. Okay, so how much money is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? What can I measure? And that's what I want people in this third panel is to draw a chart. Does that make sense? And we will find that our mind shifts, especially those of us who come from a business background. We will find a lot of comfort in here because we'll start to get drawing our charts. These are the run rates,
Numbers
these are the
and
trends,
figures.
Profit and loss, etc. And then the last one, we will go into when, which is where we pull them together. These people in these relationships, according to these measurements, this is the sequence in which we are going to move in order to meet those financial objectives that we identified. Maybe these are OKRs. What is an OKR if people are familiar with that? Outcomes and key results. How can I measure the success of you in your job? That's just one panel. But who are you, etc. And then when we're done, we go to the last page and we say, out of everything I did over the last 10 minutes of rapid drawing, what are the 2 or 3 most important lessons I want to share? And that becomes the basis of our story. First hour is done.
Wow, it takes only 1 hour.
It actually only takes about 15 minutes to fill this out. Then the rest of that first hour is when you go to someone else and you say, hey, Ryan, can I have you for 5 minutes? I want to take you through my story.
Oh, so you use this visual decoder to...
You practice.
Your presentation. Okay.
And this is a super minimum viable presentation because you just literally take your piece of
Yes,
paper.
no laptop, no smartphones.
Nothing. And you don't go to your fancy audience yet.
Okay.
You just go to a friend or your
Or a
spouse
family,
maybe, or
okay,
someone who understands you, or a coworker, and you say, give me 5 minutes. I want to walk you through it. And then you make your presentation. Hi, I'm Pamela, and I'm trying to work my way into this new company. The problem is I'm positioned in the wrong place, so I need to position myself differently. What I'm going to be measured on is my success, and here's the sequence of things. And then I listen. Ryan, what do you think? And you say, well, that part maybe didn't make so much sense to me. Have you thought maybe this is the wrong metric? Maybe a better metric would be time rather than quantity, what have you. And I listen, I say, thank you. So I've tested it. Minimum viable product. Then after I've shared it with you, I go take a break. And I did that in 1 hour. About 15 minutes to draw, about 15 minutes to share it with someone, and about 15 minutes to think about it, and then just think, what can I change, and make my changes. That's the first hour. The second hour, tell me when you're ready.
Okay, let's go to the second hour.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Because you just literally take your piece of
Yes,
paper.
no laptop, no smartphones.
Nothing. People, all of us, will pay money to go see a Hayao Miyazaki movie. But how many people pay money to come see a PowerPoint presentation? The hero of this story, it's not you. The hero isn't really even the product or the idea you want to sell. The hero is your audience.
So my favorite smoke in those days was a fellow named Mainu.
著者の思いや日本語にまだ翻訳されていない生のグローバル情報をお届けします。
Japanese work culture in the companies where people are stuck.
I believe the only logical approach.
Any advice for Japanese investors?
So I cannot say too many times, stay with what you know, and that's how you'll be successful. Everybody knows something about something. Stay with it. Now, some people will say, oh, Jim, that's boring. Ryan, be boring. If you want to be a successful investor, be boring.